I don't think I should be recording this, but I feel crazy. I feel so crazy. I'm losing my mind.
The feelings I am feeling, I'm feeling some feelings right now. I think I could kill God.
I don't think I can handle this, actually. I thought I could do this, and I don't think that I can do this. I don't have any words. Like, I don't want to cry, because it's not the feeling I'm having. I'm not mad, because what the flying fuck? I feel like I shouldn't recommend this series to you, not because it's not good or enjoyable, but because the emotional damage that has been inflicted upon me has been unmatched. Like, I'm pretty sure the last time I was this devastated by a fantasy series was when I was reading A Song of Ice and Fire 10 years ago. But that being said, I do have to talk about it because I love yapping and I love spreading the joy and spreading the trauma. I'm going to try and convince you to read it, and then I'm going to talk about it for the people who have read it, because I think we need a support group. I think all like 6 of us need to talk about this because I'm losing my mind. I'm quite literally going insane. So the series I want to talk about it's a big fantasy series, but we're talking about the first trilogy. It's Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb. This is the Farseer trilogy. For those of you who are unaware, Realm of the Elderlings is kind of an older fantasy series. The first book, Assassin's Apprentice, was originally published in 1995, so it's as old as I am. It's the 30th anniversary this year of Realm of the Elderlings, so I feel like it's pretty poignant that I picked this up. But it is 16 books long. And I feel like a lot of older fantasy series do that, like Sword of Truth is a perfect example. That series never ends. But I like Realm of the Elderlings because even though it's 16 books long, it is split up into bite-sized chunks. So you can read a trilogy and then take a step back and then read a trilogy and then go do something else. There's a handful of trilogies. I think there's 1 or 2 quartets. Most of them follow the same character. The series mostly, I haven't read the full series, so I can't speak to it, but mostly, from my understanding of it, the series follows one man as we watch him grow up. And so the first series, the Farseer trilogy, is specifically about his upbringing. We start book 1, he's age 6, and we get to see him essentially join royal courtly life, and he grows up, and by the end of the first trilogy he's in his mid-20s, and so it's a lot of adolescent craziness, but it is, oh my god, it's insane. But what is it about? Who is he? Who is Fitz? Fitz is a bastard, and so his father is a prince, and rather than claiming Fitz as his son, he decides to abdicate the throne. So his wonderful, beloved father, the whole kingdom loves his father. He just leaves. He says, I actually don't want to be a dad. I'm going to go. And so Fitz is raised by the people of the keep, and he is a bastard, and so he is not well loved. He's not well respected, but he's well loved. I'll say that. One thing leads to another, and eventually he does end up training to become the king's assassin. And so the king is his grandfather. He has a couple other prince uncles who are trying to get the throne. And the first trilogy is really about Fitz growing up. And so we get to see him come into his own. Does he become an assassin? I don't know. Does he kill people? I don't know. But obviously, because it's a fantasy series, that's not the whole story. It's not the full story, but that is kind of what the first book reflects. You may be wondering, what makes this so different than, I don't know, Game of Thrones or literally any other fantasy series? And to that I say, number 1, it is devastating. No, I love this series because I think it's hard to do original fantasy nowadays. And obviously this is from the 90s, so it's not nowadays. I think a lot of magic and magic systems and fantasy worlds have been overdone, and so it's more difficult to stumble on something that feels original. And I gotta say, this one is incredibly original. I am obsessed with the magic system. I'm not gonna try and explain it to you because I think it's better if you just wait to get to it. It's a really brilliant kind of 2-part magic system that I think is really interesting to read about. But even more interesting is that you don't get the full picture of what the world looks like until the very, very end of the third book. And even then, I'm not convinced I actually know what's going on. So like, it's plot twisty, it's emotional, it's got a lot of characters that you're gonna love. I think the thing that really kicks this series home is that even though it's about magic and it's about mystery and there's like, you know, assassins and all kinds of crazy plot twists, like, the reason you stick with it is because you love the characters. And Robin Hobb writes some crazy characters. The thing that actually really convinced me to read this series was a lot of the fan art that I saw on Tumblr, mostly because there's this one couple that isn't really a couple, but that is a couple. When it was pitched to me, I was told there is a lot of queerbaiting in this series. And in some ways, I would agree with that statement. But in most other ways, I would argue that it is not queerbaiting. It is queer. It's just weird. Anyway, I'm getting lost. I'm getting sidetracked. The other thing that I really like about this series that does actually feel very kin to A Song of Ice and Fire is that it is a political fantasy series. And so it doesn't really, like, it has war, it has fighting, it has violence, etc. But like, it's a lot more psychological and emotional. And it deals a lot more with like the politics of the realm and the politics of the throne and like trying to outthink your enemy. And so it's really twisty, it's really thought-provoking, it's really fascinating to read, actually. And the other thing that really got me too is that, at least for this trilogy, I don't know how it goes on in the future, but for this first trilogy, it's so poignant because the main villain of the series quite literally is the 45th president of the United States. And like, not even just that, but like the whole tone of it and like how it evolves as a conflict. Like, I was just reading it while we were watching this administration come into power for the second time, and it just broke me. It was crazy. Like, this is written in the 90s and it is still relevant, more relevant than ever, I'd argue. So anyway, all of that to say, I don't know that actually explained anything to you about what this series is. As you know, I like going into series and books without knowing anything, and so I don't think you really need more than that to get into it. I wasn't ready. I thought I was prepared. I really thought that I could just like slip into this series, read like the first 3 books and then like hop out. But unfortunately, it has awakened something in me, and so now I have to read all of them. I'm gonna take it slow. I'm not ready to jump into the next series just yet because I need a break from all of that, but trust, I will be reading the whole 9 yards, every single part of it. I need to read the Tawny Man series immediately because I have questions. Hopefully that gave you some kind of an idea of what you're working with here. I have to talk about it. Like, I literally am bursting. I have to talk about this whole series in spoilery, in-depth detail. So we're gonna. You can see yourself out, but I need a support group. I need a support group real bad, guys. Okay, now that all of those people are gone, coming at you live from my breakdown. I'm almost done with Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb. Like, I'm at like 92% done. I'm like so close to the end. And I am losing my fucking I actually can't do this. I actually can't do this. And like, he just got bludgeoned over the head. And the next chapter is titled Dungeon, so I'm assuming he's in the fucking dungeon, but like, where do we go from here? Literally, from whence do we go? What am I supposed to do with this? I don't want to finish it, but I have to finish it. I don't know why I doubted this series. I didn't outwardly doubt it. I was just kind of like, yeah, you know, like, surely this won't awaken anything in me. It has. And the worst part about all of this is that my library book doesn't even come in for another like 3 weeks for the next one. And I have a paperback on the way, but I don't know, it's gonna get here on Wednesday. And I don't even know if I could start book 3 after I finish this anyway, because how is this supposed to end? I'm not even done. I literally am not even done. And this is book 2. What the fuck? I'm on page 700. I'm broken. I'm literally broken. I have not been this stressed out since I read A Song of Ice and Fire. It's like the feeling that I had when I read the end of The Mask Falling for the first time. Except, like, twice as long. And so much worse, Fitz does not have a single brain cell. Somehow he has lost brain cells over the course of this whole adventure. He had negative to begin with. Now he is in such a huge fucking deficit that he will not make that up. He is just never gonna make that back. And I can't do this. Actually, we know Fitz survives, and I know the fool survives, and that's really all I care about. Everybody else can die for all I care. Except for Verity. Verity better fucking live. I don't even care about Molly and the baby. I know Molly will survive. But, like, I will have to deal with Fitz's lack of brain cells going forward, and I find that just exhausting. I don't even know how to process this because I don't know what's going on objectively.
40 pages! I have 40 pages left. This is done.
Why did you guys make me do this? This is fucking insane! Oh my god! Verity just became a dragon and I don't like it. 3 new coteries? Oh god, this is crazy! What is happening? This is fucking crazy. This is fucking crazy! This is so fucking insane. I can't do this! I can't do this! I gotta get this out. I just finished. It just finished. And I've been working at this for weeks, and it has tortured me immensely. And that ending tortured me almost more. Not to say I'm unsatisfied, because I'm not unsatisfied. And I also understand that this is a bigger series than just the first trilogy. But, like, objectively, like, as far as, like, trilogy finales go, this one was fucking crazy. And I don't know that I liked it. Technically, I didn't really like it. Only because the pacing is crazy. The pacing is insane. And this is one of the most disheartening books that I've read. Devastation. Just gotta say this, because at the beginning of the book, when he's like, I'm gonna tell you the story about my life, like, I fully was under the impression that that was an old man. I was like, this is an old guy. He's elderly. He's white-haired. He is wrinkly. He is an old man. And by the end of the book, when he reveals, like, he's like, what, fucking 26? It should be illegal, number one, that Fitz had to give up his body so that Verity could use it to have an heir. I think that should be illegal, number one. Number two, the other thing that should definitely be illegal is I just simply don't think Molly and Burrage should be having children. Insane. The fact that Fitz can live through that after having, like, borne witness to that, like, he is a stronger man than me. I'm very mad about Verity, actually. Don't even talk to me about him. I'm shocked at how much happened in the last 200 pages. I just didn't expect that. I should have. That's on me, clearly. Wish I could put it all in a dragon. I really wish I could. Holy shit. I need a break. I was not warned. Nobody warned me. I feel like I should have, like, gotten a disclaimer before I started this about how fucking insane it was gonna make me and how crazy this series is. I told you this. I've read A Song of Ice and Fire. You guys were there. I have read all 5 books in the Game of Thrones series. Like, I have been through emotional torture. I have read some of the most devastating fantasy books on the market. And I won't say that this series tops Game of Thrones, because I do think, like, A Song of Ice and Fire is specifically dark. It is specifically dark. There is not a lot of hope there. There is some humor, but really not a lot of humor. By the time you get past the first book, it's just downhill. It is just, everything is terrible for all time. And also, we still don't have an ending. So, like, it's awful. It's bad. But I will say, I think this is number 2 on my most devastating books ever, series ever list, because it's just unfair. The amount of unfairness in this series is so insane to me. And I think Fitz is braver than I could ever be, because if I had been dealt those cards over and over again, I probably would have turned into a dragon myself. I finished Assassin's Quest the other night, and it was traumatizing. I shouldn't start with Assassin's Quest because I have the most beef with it. Affectionately, I have the most beef with it. I don't want to say I'm shocked, because I should have known that it was going to be really good, but I think it's hard when you pick up vintage fantasy. Am I vintage now? Older fantasy, pre-2000s fantasy, because like, especially when you read white male fantasy from that time, like it's very misogynistic. I've read Sword of Truth. I've read Game of Thrones. Like it's you kind of got to make a lot of concessions in order to enjoy it, you know? And there are good things and there are a lot of bad things. And so when I was starting this one, I was optimistic because it's written by a woman, but you never can tell, you know? Also, on top of that, I had heard so many rumors about the queerbaiting that I was like, like, I don't know what's going to happen. Is it going to be terrible? I'm not sure. And I needn't have worried because there was no problem there. So when I picked up the first one, you know, I read it very quickly. Obviously, it's the shortest one. Breezed through it. The ending was traumatizing, and I was like, surely, you know, it can't get worse. And then I picked up the second book. And while I was reading these, I had to find emotional support for obvious reasons. And so I ended up following a couple people on Tumblr that I was like, you've read it. Can you talk me through this? And they were like, absolutely. And the one thing that all of them told me, there were like 2 or 3 of them that were like, man, I'm so jealous of you. I wish I would give my firstborn child in order to read this series for the first time again. So I need you to appreciate it. And I was like, okay. And without fail, every single person I talked to, I'd be like, oh my God, this is what's happening. And they're like, wow, that's crazy. It's going to get worse. And I was like, what? What do you mean worse? And they're like, no, don't worry. It's going to get worse. So anyway, I started the second book, and the second book is my favorite for now, because I cannot forgive Assassin's Quest for all of that shit. But I love Royal Assassin because you get a great mix of like character development, character relationships, nice, happy, fun times mixed with the most insane trauma that you've ever had in your life. The ending of this book is fucking insane. And so anyway, I was like, wow, all of this is terrible. Like, surely it can't get worse. And you know what they told me? It gets worse. And I shouldn't have doubted anyone. I should not have doubted Robin Hobb, but here we are. This one took me about like 3 times as long as the other ones did because I read it on paperback and I read the first 2 on ebook. I kind of was under the impression that like the first half pacing was going to be weird and then the second half was going to be like this wonderful rom-com. And it wasn't. I think Robin Hobb could give George R. R. Martin a run for his money because quite literally the emotional torture in here, the physical torture, but also the emotional torture killed me. It was devastating. Pain. When I got to the second half, I was like, okay, like we did all of that. The first half is what it is. Now, surely things will start to pick up, you know, like we'll have happy times, we'll find Verity, the magic will make sense, we'll kill that guy, like everything's gonna be fine. Everything happens in the last 20 pages. Everything happens in the last 20 pages. I respect the hell out of Robin Hobb, and I do think like from a story perspective, like everything worked out the way it was supposed to. However, from a reader perspective, I think that is one of the rudest books I've ever read. You know, like Royal Assassin, the ending is brutal because obviously Fitz like has been tortured and it's terrible for him. And then it gets so bad that he essentially kills himself and has to like be resurrected. Not in so many words, but that is kind of what happens to him. It was so hard to read the first time because you don't know what's going to happen and you think he's going to die and then he comes back and like you don't even know what he's dealing with at the beginning of Assassin's Quest, where he has been resurrected, so to speak, but he's still living in his wolf brain. And so like for all of that, like he came back wrong. He literally came back wrong and we have to deal with the consequences of that. That's unfair, I'd say. I thought that was unfair and I didn't enjoy it, but I was like, okay, surely, you know, like there will be a happy ending, this will all work out, etc. But like Assassin's Quest took all of that and somehow put it through a meat grinder and made it even worse. You think he's gonna have a happy ending, and I should have known better because he's Fitz and he doesn't have happy endings. He doesn't even get to be happy ever once in his life. So like that makes sense, I guess. I was just really upset, I think, by the Verity thing. Like logically, I understand why all of it had to happen, but I am really pissed off that like he just never got to be king, and like I'm mad for Ketrican's sake. Fitz is stronger than anyone in the entire universe. Everything that happened to him, I was like, you're still alive? You're still walking? You're still gonna go help those people after that? And the thing that I'm most afraid of is that when I finished Assassin's Quest, again, my mutuals were like, it's gonna make Assassin's Quest look like a quirky rom-com. How dare you? How dare you say that to me? You know what I've been through. What the fuck? Did I have fun? Yeah, obviously. It was a great time. I loved where the magic was going at the end of Assassin's Quest with all the dragons, obviously. Somehow the 800-page book was rushed. That's like one of my biggest pet peeves in fantasy, is that you can write 854 pages and it is still rushed, and you needed to write another 400 pages to get your ideas accurately across, you know? I don't know where it's gonna go. I haven't really tried to look into the other trilogies for obvious reasons. People keep asking if I'm gonna read the Live Ship Traders. I think that's what it's called. And I am, and I will, and that's what I'm gonna do next. And I know there's not gonna be any Fitz and the Fool content in them as far as I'm aware. So that's upsetting. But that leads us into our next bit of conversation, which is Fitz and the Fool. Did I pick up this series because of Fitz and the Fool? I did. I'm not gonna lie. That is the reason I am reading these books. Like, here's the thing. I do like them as a pairing, whatever they are. We'll get to that. But like from the first meeting with the Fool, I was like, this little guy is my guy. He is my Blurbo. I'm putting him in the Hall of Fame immediately. I want him to have happiness. I love him so much. I'm obsessed with him. The more I learn about him and the more that he's like grown throughout the series, it's just like, I am obsessed. I love him. I think he is a fascinating character. I'm so compelled by Robin Hobb because this is such a progressive series for the 90s. And on top of that, most of the progressiveness comes from the commentary on queerness and gender. And that woman sounds so straight. I haven't done enough research to actually know who she is, to really know who she is. But like, I've talked to people about her and I've kind of heard some whispers, and like, I just don't understand how a straight person, an entirely straight person, can write this. I'm not gonna lie. The reason I picked this up is because of the supposed queer baiting. I had heard rumors that there was this couple and everybody was like, they're really, really gay, but they're not canon. And I was like, very compelled by that, obviously. The most insane thing about it is that it's really not queer baiting and it's really canon. I think people just want it to be something that it's not. But at the same time, I've heard things about the later series that I know will completely change what I say right now. So I'm hesitant to say anything because I've heard things. These two guys objectively don't have sex and they are not in a romantic relationship. They only kiss once on the mouth. And so like by that standard, it's like queer baiting, you know, like they're technically not canon. Neither of them like wants to date, wants to get married, etc. They don't talk about their relationship like that. However, in a lot of ways, they are even more queer for not wanting to do that, for not doing that, because all of the other shit that happens between them is just bonkers. And a lot of it, most of it, is in Assassin's Quest. The stuff that happened in Assassin's Quest blew my fucking mind. I just was sitting there with my mouth open like, are you serious? Because obviously, if, you know, Fitz and the Fool, they grew up together. They've known each other since they were children. We come to find out that the Fool went to the keep, to the king, to connect with Fitz. He didn't know who Fitz was, but he had the catalyst in his mind and he was like, that's my guy, I gotta go find him. It becomes apparent the further we get into this series that like the Fool is definitely attracted to Fitz and the Fool is definitely in love with Fitz and the Fool has all these feelings about the Fitz that I don't know why I'm calling him the Fitz, but he has all these feelings about Fitz that he keeps inside. It's not that he doesn't share them, because I think it's obvious Fitz is just the dumbest man alive, and also he doesn't see the Fool that way for a long time. And so just thinking about the reunion in Assassin's Quest, what the fuck was that? Because they reconnect and it's obvious that the Fool is like, my life was meaningless without you and now you're back and I'm so happy you're okay and I love you and blah blah blah. And Fitz is like, you thought I was pretty? There's the part of Assassin's Quest where Starling is talking to Kettricken and complains that like Fitz won't accept that the Fool is in love with him and also that the Fool is a girl. And I think the Fool's gender is a whole nother video that I could make, especially because in one of the like opening like epitaphs for the chapters, there is one about the Fool's gender. And the whole point of it is that We don't know the fool's gender. The fool doesn't even know the fool's gender. There is no gender there. But people obviously ascribe a gender to him. And like, it does seem like he prefers he pronouns. Not that it really matters, but like, it does seem like he prefers he pronouns. But Starling is convinced that he's a woman. And so she spends part of the story calling the fool by she, her pronouns. And Fitz is like really annoyed by it. And I do think part of that is like just intrinsic heteronormative culture, that he is offended on the fool's behalf that anybody would think he's a woman. And fool is like, it literally doesn't matter to me. That whole part is really interesting, obviously, because Fitz has the balls to talk to him about it. And so he asks fool and is like, why do you let that happen? And he's like, oh, brother, like, it really doesn't matter to me that much. And also, like, she just doesn't understand. And then Fitz is like, and also she said you're in love with me. And fool is like, I am. And he's like, excuse me? I could make a video about like non-sexual queerness, because I think that is really big on my mind lately, especially from like an Arrow's perspective. Like, they're definitely queer. Are they homosexual? No, I don't know. Are they bisexual? I don't know. However, they are queer and they do fall into that category. And I think their friendship is more than just a friendship, but I don't know that it's exactly like a homosexual relationship, you know, a homoerotic relationship at that. Time will tell. Again, I'm 3 books in. I don't know where this is going. The part that I'm thinking about now is towards the end, right around the time when Fitz is trying to break open Kettle, if you will. And so he essentially like asks the fool to like touch him with his skilled fingers, and that right there is pretty queer. But like, they have that moment where they like know each other fully, and they're like, oh yeah, like, I do love you, and now I understand how you feel about me, and like, I know who you are. And so there's like this bond that the skill bond, obviously, but there is this bond that forms between them that has been forming the whole time. But I don't think Fitz ever fully let himself feel that or accept that. And it's just so apparent as they travel throughout the second half of Assassin's Quest that they care about each other so much, and they are connected, whether that's like cosmically in prophecy, like the White Prophet and the Catalyst, or just like the fact that they grew up together, that they know each other so well, that they are kind of like the only two that they can trust. That's why the scene where the fool betrays him was so devastating. Like, I had to take a walk. It baffles me that anybody could claim that it is queer baiting, because it's not baiting. It's real. Like, it is legitimately queer, and it is canonical, and it shouldn't be possible, because like, to write like that, you have to have some kind of queerness within you, you know? And maybe it's not like gay, maybe it's not homosexual, but like, even just from like an ace perspective, like, it's so much bigger than just like a straight person writing about friendship, you know? I just am baffled by it. I'm truly astounded that it took me so long to read something like this, but I feel so seen, even though I can't really relate to any of it. But I will say, when I was reading the Fool's gender section, I was like, you know, wouldn't it be hilarious if like the fool was the thing that finally got me to think about my gender? Like, we're not there yet, but like, I did have a moment where I was like, am I not a cis? Don't ask me about it. I'm not worried about it at the moment. All of that to say, I am so invested in the two of them, and the ending was particularly crazy because I didn't really have a chance to sit with the Fitz and the fool feelings, because, you know, it's all chaotic and everything is crazy, and Regal's there, and like, Fitz is almost dying. But like, the fool literally kisses him on the mouth. And then after all of that, there is that one section where Fitz is like, yeah, like, I don't really know what happened to him. He disappeared, but like, I hope he still has my father's earring. And also, I miss him. And I could make a whole nother video about Burrich and the earring and chivalry and patience and Fitz and how all of that fits together, and the queerness that is in that stupid fucking earring. I've had many conversations with my mutuals about the goddamn earring. I think I've run your ear off probably too much to get into that at the moment, but trust when I say the earring has been on my mind. I didn't even get to talk to you guys about Night Eyes. Night Eyes is the love of my life. And the way that he fits into the Fitz and the Fool bond thing, crazy, insane. We are pack. We are literally pack. I think to close it out, though, I do want to talk about Regal really quick, because that man is a fucking insane person. I was so upset the whole time. And I think I said this kind of in the intro, but the reason I was so mad is because of all of the parallels between Regal and our wonderful president. It was just insane. Like, I would be reading things that would correlate with stuff in the news, and I was like, what the hell? I think the thing that makes him such a compelling villain is that he objectively doesn't have a lot of power. He's not smart. He's not strong. He doesn't have any skill. However, he is manipulative and conniving, and he knows enough people that he can kind of worm his way into the kingship. I think that was such a brilliant way to end the story of, like, you know, we spent all this time seeing him as this all-powerful guy. Fitz tried to kill him multiple times and just, like, could not do it because he has all these people around him who are strong. And at the end of all of it, you know, like, Will is almost destroyed, and the dragons have come, and Regal is essentially alone, and he still believes that he can, you know, manipulate his way through to power. And it doesn't even take, like, Fitz doesn't even have to kill him. He can just, like, overpower him, convince him to be loyal to Kettricken for, like, the few days he has left. And then, God bless America, the fucking small ferret pulls through and kills that guy. Like, literally the best ending we could have had for him. He also kind of reminds me a little bit, forgive me for mentioning this, I'm reading Heaven Official's Blessing right now. I have a whole video about that if you want to see. But there's a character in there who is kind of similar to Regal. He has almost no power. He's so annoying. He is literally just some guy. But, like, he causes all these problems just because he's annoying. And his name is Shirong. So if you know Shirong, that's who I see when I see Regal. It's the worst kind of villain, I think, because they're evil and they will cause pain and they will kill people mindlessly. However, like, objectively, there is no reason they should be in power because they have no power. They are not powerful. And yet somehow people have elevated them to this status that is so crazy that they can do things that they shouldn't be able to do by all intents and purposes. And again, you know, kind of reminds me of a certain someone we all know, and it's frustrating. And I think that was what was so devastating about this series, is that, like, regardless of, like, the actual torture that Fitz went through, like, it's the psychological feeling of, like, I'm doing everything I can and it's not enough. And there is nothing I can do to fix this, to kill this guy, to get this guy out of his leadership position. And people just believe that he is good, and people believe that I am bad. But, like, I know the truth, and I'm trapped within that psychological torture forever until something changes, you know? And knowing that there is a better person for the job who is out there actually doing something, and, like, nobody cares, and nobody knows, and nobody can do anything, and holy shit, I'm gonna have a breakdown. Hopefully I can stop thinking about this sometime soon. I don't think I will. But I just need you all to, I know you're aware of this, but I've been damaged. I've been psychologically tortured almost as much as Fitz. Now I'm officially done. I'm going to stop talking to you about this, but I really do need a support group. So if you've read Realm of the Elderlings, if you've read past the first trilogy and you want to be, like, in the loop, if you're on Tumblr, holler at me and I will give you my username so we can chat, so we can get going. Because I have a feeling this is going to be the Robin Hobb year. I have a bad feeling. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.